Hey everyone, this is Mrs. Eads and I am going to show you guys how to do some observation drawing today in your sketchbooks. I'm sure that a lot of you may be familiar already with how to draw items from real life, but I just thought I'd give you some tips and pointers and just kind of refresh some instruction on what to do and what not to do when you're trying to draw observation drawings in your sketchbooks. So I have my handy dandy sketchbook here that we created last week. We designed our own cover that was inspiring to us, so hopefully you guys will want to pick it up this week. I have my ebony drawing pencil. These are just types of pencils that I love to work with. If you have a pencil that just feels good in your own hand, by all means use that. One thing you want to do when you're starting out is, well, first of all, choose your object that you're going to draw. And for this practice activity, it's not going to have any specific meaning or purpose. You might want to practice doing some of those types of drawings with just objects around your house, just on regular sketch paper, not expensive paper for practices. But so this is my water bottle that has been well abused because I take it everywhere I go and drop it everywhere I go. But I decided I'm going to draw this first just to show you the basics of drawing an item from observation drawing. And the first thing you need to do is to look at what you're drawing. This sounds very simple, but it takes lots of practice to keep moving from the paper to the object, from the paper to the object with your eyes. So keep your eyes moving the entire time. The next thing to point out, do not trace. Don't go and trace your item onto your sketchbook. That is not what you want to do for observation drawing. We're trying to practice our hand-eye coordination just by moving the eye from object to paper constantly. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to get a feel for the shape and the size of the item object that I'm going to draw. You can do one of two ways. Sometimes I might just get a feel for where I want the middle of my object to be and start off with those lines. So I might start out drawing real light, and I hope that you guys can see that okay. I might do mine a little bit darker just so you can see it on the video, but you want to do light, really light. So draw about what size you're imagining this object is going to be on the paper. And then I'm going to find the middle of this line, and you can eyeball it. Don't stress about measurements. The ruler is handy for some types of drawing. For this type of drawing, we're just really working on what we see and translating it into an image. The second approach you can take is to start first by drawing just a basic shape. So you can see by looking at my object, it is going to be, if I squint my eyes, and squinting is a huge part of learning to draw. Squint, and I can see, you might think, okay, well, it's sort of a cylinder shape, and that is true, but on the paper, I might just lightly sketch it out as being rectangular, just because I'm going to build from there, okay? So I've got my first shape here. And don't get attached to like one of your sketches. We're doing really light, and we're going over and over just to get a feel for where your item is going to be in space on your paper. It's just really, you're just getting a feeling, your first impression. The proportion may be incorrect. I can already tell by looking at this, I don't have room for the top of my cap on here from the size that I made it. So what I'm going to do is going to add up a little bit more and extend a little bit more, because I can just tell that this proportion is not going to be right, and that's okay because this is my first impression. We're just sort of roughing it in, and it's going to serve as a guideline for you. So then the second thing, if you start with doing that shape, then you will want to put your center line, find the center of your object. So now that I have made my shape a little bit longer than I did originally, I don't want that line there. And don't be afraid to use your eraser. Your eraser is your best friend when drawing, and that's what it's there for. So I'm going to rough in just my center line there. And that kind of gives the direction and the motion of the object. It's sort of, we're going to sketch in the bones, the sort of skeleton of whatever it is you're drawing. So I'm going to just get my center here. It's probably a little bit somewhere in the middle there. We're just eyeballing. And I'm going to break my object up into sections. Now, I chose an object where everything is pretty much going in the same motion. I do have, if you can see, there's a little doohickey thing hanging off the top of here. So I am going to kind of etch in where the top of my water bottle is going to be. That's going to be a separate shape. And I'm going to put in another like sort of rectangular shape here right now. And this is facing this away. From my perspective, that I'm not looking at it directly on top of it. So I'm looking at it from a side view. And I will also have that. Okay, so now I've broken it up into a few different shapes. And I've got my lines making the middle of all of those shapes. Okay, so figure out your shapes and get the motion of the object, sort of break it down into sections, and then you're going to compare your parts and sort of to see the proportions and are they accurate. I can tell that so if I were to hold my pencil up, you can use your pencil to measure things. You can use your fingers to measure things. So I can say, okay, this is going to be 1, 2, 2 of 2 high. So 1, and if I do that, so I made it a little bit short. Doot, 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 doot. I'm almost right. I made this come down a little bit too low. So that's, but it was fairly accurate. So try to do that. You can use your pencil to help you do that. You can figure out, okay, so it's like from here to there, and then you'll find the same spot on your pencil, however you want to do it. And you can shrink it down, obviously, because our paper is not going to be as big as our objects most of the time. So maybe you could say, I'm going to take half of whatever, so say the middle of my object falls right here, then maybe I'm going to do half of that is going to equal that on my paper. So you would do that and then do one more if you want to make it smaller. Okay, I'm making mine big. I like to work big on paper. I would encourage you guys to try working big and try to fill the space, especially when you're starting out. You can work small if you want to work in 2 sketches on a piece of paper, but for our intents and purposes, I'm going to be working kind of large. We're going to see how the big shapes relate to each other here. So right now I'm going to, so as you can see, when I was doing my sketching, I also hold my pencil a different way. It's different from writing. When writing, we hold our pencil like this, and we're writing like using our wrist. We are using our whole arm to sketch. So you want to lay it in your palm, move it a little bit forward, let it rest on your index finger here, and work like this for sketching in then your shapes. Okay, so that way I'm using my whole arm here. I'm not just using my wrist. When I'm doing details, then yes, switch and you can add in the details that way. But try your hand at just sketching this in. Now I'm going to focus on sort of drawing in, making it looking 3D. I'm going to get the roundness going on here of my water bottle, because it certainly isn't a rectangle shape. It is round. So I'm going to do that. And whatever I'm doing down here at the bottom, I need to come up here and say, okay, that has to be the exact sort of same arc. And again, this is just practice. So don't be afraid to like make mistakes or try out different lines to try to get the right feel. And that's another reason for holding the pencil this way. When our arm, we have muscle memory, so as we are getting into the groove of like, okay, the curve is like this, then we're just going to keep doing that up here, and it will transfer. And so now I'm going to switch my grip, and I'm going to just be laying down, like I want to make this have depth. So you won't see these lines in my finished drawing, but this is part of constructive drawing here. And then I'm going to go up to the cap on my water bottle. You can see the cap is round as well. So I'm going to sort of now get into the details of things a little bit further, okay? And so this is where you take your time, okay? And I can see that, I don't know if you guys can see, but when looking at this object, this is a smaller width than this. So I'm going to be needing to make that different on my page. So it's gonna come down. I'm using my whole arm here and trying to get my sides to balance out. Okay. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to get that silver little spot there where again, it's not going to be perfect. That's okay. I'm going to go up a little bit for where the rim is. You can see I've come in a little ways now from this point. I have 2 points here. And I'm going to work on making the top of my water bottle. Again, same line. Try to feel your lines and keep that continuous throughout, okay? So I know that my arc is gonna feel the same, whether it's here, here, or down at the bottom, okay? Let's see, so I've got my silver. There is a black spot there, and it gets smaller. The line gets smaller as it goes back. It comes wider out front and then gets back smaller again. So I'm noticing how that goes. I'm seeing that, okay, this is like a smile almost. I see it coming down, and there's a wide part here and then gets narrow again. So I'm going to translate that here. This was my silver part. This part is coming down like a smile and goes back, and it's thicker in the middle, and then it gets smaller. And that also does that for the silver part. So I'm going to make that go narrower as well. And what I'm seeing directly in front of me is what is wider gets smaller. Okay, and I'm going to try to keep in mind where your middle is. Okay. And that the widest, thickest part should be where that middle line is. Let's see here. All right, so I've got the smile part. This is my silver. It's hard for me to tell when I'm just sketching where everything is. All right, so now I have this sort of thick bluish line on there. So I'm going to go up a little bit, and now I can kind of, from my perspective, I can kind of see the it's pretty, I'm trying to see, it's about the width of my pencil up, so I'm going to go up a little ways, and it goes sort of at an angle, and that's where I'm able to see the top of my cap, and it goes back, and it's going to go off the page on mine because of the proportion that or the perspective that I'm looking at this. Okay. Again, we're roughing these in. These are sketches. These aren't like perfected fine art drawings. So give yourself grace if it's not lined up perfectly, and mine's not lined up perfectly. I want to see the top of the cap here. So I'm going to add that in. That sort of goes like right there, and then that comes over and off my page and goes back where there's like a sort of a rectangle shape where I can see the water bottle holder. And again, we don't want to spend like terribly long on these types of drawings because again, they're sketches. They're just supposed to be captures of a moment, okay? Okay, but once you get it roughed in the way that you want it, I can see that this top part of the water bottle comes to, I don't have it going far enough. It should be reaching the middle of my middle line. You can see where my middle line is on the page. Always have that middle line to kind of be your guide. And then just keep working it, keep going over it. Do layers of your drawing. And whatever line you are making, so see here I've got 2 lines that are parallel to each other. So this line's got to be the same as this line over here. Same angle. And I'm going to go, the angle is kind of hard to do on this one because I didn't leave myself enough room when I was sketching it in. But that's okay. Again, it's just a sketch. And this is what I want you just to mess around with in your sketchbooks. Find things, find items that really are reflected in your week. And keep playing with it, playing around with different perspectives and how you want it to look. Okay, and so this is just one that I'm doing. When you get it roughed in the way that you want it to do, then you're going to use the side of your pencil again and add your shadows and some shading to create depth. Now the shadow, you guys can probably see, comes off at a weird angle from here, and I didn't make mine small enough to but you can see that the shadow comes from like behind the bottle and this way because my light source is directly in front of this water bottle. So it's coming this way. So I'm going to, okay, like that. I'm going to be bringing a shadow this way. Okay, and so I'm going to just lightly sort of take the side of my pencil and just, you know, rough it in. It's not perfection here for sketchbook drawings, but we are trying to just create some depth so we can see that it's not just floating in space. You might want to draw the line behind it also so that you don't have it be in space. You don't have to, because this is just something in your sketchbook. Again, these aren't fine art finished pieces in a sketchbook, but I'm going to then start adding in some shadow. And I'm just making lines back and forth this way. And then I can see that on mine there is a line of shadow that follows the same arc. So look for those areas. Where do you see shadows on the object that you're drawing? On mine, I see another block of shadow because this is a cylinder, so it's going to have some shadow and to show the roundness, but there is a light area in the middle, so maybe it's darker. Look for where it's darkest, etch in those areas, and then do lighter. Okay, I have some more shading here in the middle to do. And my darkest area is on the side where the shadow is. So I'm going to make this darker on the bottom to show one tip though is you want to not try to outline your item as much, but just make it sort of be natural. It's dark here for sure. And I want to show like right where the bottom of it is. Okay. And the shadow is going to be a little bit lighter. And this is, we'll talk about this in a few weeks, is value and how you can go from darker to lighter. There's so much that we'll learn about shading. I'm just going to make this side all darker, especially darker than this side. And I'm sort of following the roundness of it now. I'm just going over it and over it and over it. And that's a rough of just my water bottle. It's not perfect, and that's okay. They don't have to be perfect. I'm going to show you another example here. You can also go in when you have it the way that you want it and use your eraser to erase any guidelines. I made mine a little too dark. This is why I ask you guys, or encourage you guys, to work light with your pencils as you're making those guidelines, because we want to be able to erase them when we're done. But go in when you are finished and find those areas of highlights, like where the light is really shining on those areas. And we'll make those work. I have some on top of there, on the side here. And there's some that goes around here a little bit. There's also a little highlight over here. And I don't like the top of this, how I made it, because you can't, it's going off the page. But again, just you will get a feel for the proportion as you go, and how you want yours to look on paper. So now I'm going to, and mine's from the perspective that I'm looking at, from the perspective that you guys see it probably looks a little bit different. I think mine, I'd like to make it a little bit more skinny looking. So just don't be afraid to keep working it. That's okay. And don't be afraid to keep subtracting. Take off if you think, okay, this is too wide. My water bottle's not, like, I'm not carrying around a milk jug of water here right now. Just erase around and work it again. It's a sketch. That's what sketchbooks are for. And then think about adding in notes to help you remember. So I could say like 9:02 90-degree day, lots of water. So it's just a great way to just keep track of things that are happening in your life visually. I'm gonna stop this right now, and I'm going to then show you how to do this with items found in nature and using charcoal instead of pencil if you want to try something else. You can also go back in with color if you'd like to add color to your drawings, or you can just, once you have it sketched, sometimes we might want to go over our final sketch with a Sharpie. And I'm going to go over mine just to show you one way you can go about that. I am holding this as a writing utensil as I'm doing this, because I am having to use a very fine line and trying to keep my hand as steady as possible. I'm going to go back here, and I can rework any areas that I just wasn't happy with the first round. Okay, this was the silver part of my cap, and it gets narrower. I'm not really showing that very well, but you're gonna mess up. That's okay. It's a sketch, not a fine art piece. Again, this was the little black area that was kind of like a smile, and it goes up, and then And sometimes if you just take your hand in the air where you want your line to go, that's a helpful way to do that too. So I know I'm gonna go, I want this to go like that. So get a feel in your arm, how your arc is gonna be. And then I'm gonna get that to go back as well. And then it's gonna go back and it's gonna be right about, so there was my middle line. So that was gonna be the back top farthest point of my water bottle cap. I wish I had more paper because I would make it a little bit wider and more of an oval shape, but I didn't, and that's okay. It's going back like that. I really messed up the perspective of this. It's hard when you're drawing flat. I would encourage you, if at all possible, to as you're drawing, like angle it. When I'm drawing flat for these videos, my perspective is definitely off, but I'm hoping that you get the gist of what we're doing here. Go around there and have my cap come down because I can see the cap, and there's about, trying to picture how much space there is. Look at the different shapes. So I see it's almost like a paisley shape coming around where the bottom of the cap is. So I'm going to try to mimic that, and I know that it gets skinny and then it gets a little fatter over here with a strong line as the cap goes off, and it goes up and it goes around, and then it's going to come off the page over here where the little handle is. And again, whatever line is here is going to be the same here, 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 here. Just try to match your angles. And it's definitely helpful going over it. You can find some of those things that, so my angle's going this way. I want it to go this way. That line's going to be the same as this line. This line should be the same as this line, at least the angle. Okay, so there we go. And this is like, I messed this up, but that's okay. I'm gonna just try to work it in the best I can. The top should be off the page so you can't see it, but I'm wanting you so badly to see the whole thing that I'm trying to squeeze it in, but don't worry about that so much as other areas. And then now is where you add in the details. So there's like a texture that goes around this blue rim, and I'm going to add those in. They're like little dots. So any little details that you see that can add texture and make your item seem more realistic, do add those in. And let's see, what else am I missing? There's a little section here to my water bottle. This is all in light, direct light. There is shadow here. So I'm going to go in and create some of the shadow. This is the time where you want to add in some details. And I just make really fine lines that are right next to each other for that. And I'm going to do a few around the edge here. Whatever direction you see the shadows going. And you can go back the other way. That's called cross hatching. And I'm just going to add a little bit more of that shadow with a few really close lines like that. Okay, and then, so here's my silver, and my shadow is pretty thick right here. So I'm gonna, and think about what shape is that shadow. I can see like almost a triangle of shadow right here. So I'm going to go, and I'm actually going to use my pencil to help guide me here with getting this shadow correct. It angles this way. I get a feel for that. It's going to go like right like that. and then it kind of comes out, not too far, but it's enough, and then it goes back. Okay, so there's a shadow on my water bottle that's this shape. As you are learning to draw realistically, you're going to start looking at objects and being able to translate that to your paper, breaking down the things that you see into shapes and lines. Like, I kid you not, like if you go for a walk outside, you will soon start seeing lines and shapes like everywhere. You won't be able to see the world the same way again. And that's kind of a cool thing. You see things as an artist. I love when I go for walks and I just see all the different lines that are just found like along the nature path. And then I've got a really dark line that is kind of rounded as a shadow. I'm going to do some quick lines beside each other, and they're just going around here and kind of end where this does. I'm going to do some lines this way as well. Again, this is a sketch, so we're not worried about perfection here. You can just kind of rough them in a little bit. Look to see where the shadows go. Try to squint your eyes. Squint your eyes and see where they are. And then I have some more that are going right around here. And then the darker spots, you just keep going over them even more so. You can round them if you want. This is just the shading part, and that you can do that more with your pencil if you want to. Okay. I'm going to have my shadow lines at the bottom come away. But that's just one way, one approach you can do it. You can also go in with, if you have oil pastels at home, you can add some color. That's another way that you can bring this more to life. So I'm going to add some blue on this. And with oil pastels, I really don't like to have the wrapper on here. I prefer working with plain oil pastels. And I just trimmed my nails, so it's kind of impossible to do. But really, you can press hard with these in the areas that the shadow is to add further effect. And I'm just like scribbling. I'm not like, this is not perfection. And then I take a paper towel and I'm going to wrap my finger like so, and I'm going to smudge. And this helps to pull this is a really great way just to kind of bring the shadows in, add further depth, make it look more 3D. And just go the direction, like all the way across that it is. You can always add more color. If I see, okay, yeah, there's a lot more shadow that goes out in this middle section here. And maybe I'm going to add some more up here. And maybe you're looking at yours and looking at my water bottle and saying, well, that's not the color of her water bottle. It's okay. That's all right. We are just sort of, this is a capture. Again, it's not, it's looking at an object and practicing. I have to practice too. You know, I get out of practice from not doing art for a while, and but hopefully this gives you guys at least a rough idea of how to do an object such as this. Now I'm going to show you how to do a natural or item found in nature with charcoal.